A poor young girl was forced to wed a man older than her father, but what followed shocked everyone. The village of Darapur lay hidden between dry hills, where dust clung to the skin like a curse and poverty seemed to seep into the very soil. Houses were built of mud and straw, and the villagers measured life in sacks of grain, jars of water, and the mercy of landlords who never seemed to have enough. In one of those houses lived Amara, a slender girl of barely 16. Her hands were rough from grinding flour, her feet cracked from carrying water, yet her eyes still carried the innocence of dreams. She was poor, yes, but she often whispered to herself that she had at least one treasure: the courage to hope. Her father, Rafiq, was a worn-out farmer who bent his back to another man's land. He had debts that grew like weeds no matter how much he tried to cut them down. Amara's mother had died giving birth to her younger brother, who in turn never survived the winter. That left Rafiq with only Amara, a child who had grown too fast, forced to be both daughter and homemaker. For years, Amara endured hardship with patience. She rose with the sun, lit the stove, prepared bread, and swept the dirt floors. Sometimes, when the work was done, she would sit under the neem tree and dream about a better life. Maybe, she thought, someone kind would see her worth and take her away from all this. But the world is often crueler than a girl's dreams. The bargain. One evening, Rafiq came home with trembling hands and sunken eyes. He avoided Amara's gaze, though she hurried to serve him bread and lentils. "Baba, you look tired," she said softly. "Did the landlord demand more?" He chewed silently, then wiped his mouth with a shaking hand. "Amara, we cannot keep living like this. The debts are swallowing us. I am old. My body can no longer work the way it used to. There is only one way left." Her heart skipped. She had heard such tones before, in the whispers of women at the well. "What way, Baba?" Rafiq lowered his eyes. "Tomorrow, you will be betrothed. The arrangement is made." The bread fell from her fingers. Betrothed? To whom? His silence was more terrifying than any answer. Finally, he spoke. To Haji Karim. The name froze her blood. Haji Karim was the wealthiest man in Darapur, a widower past 60. His beard was white, his belly heavy, and his reputation heavier still. He had already buried 2 wives and was known for his harshness. Children ran when he walked by. Amara's lips trembled. "Baba, he is older than you. He could be my grandfather." Rafiq's eyes filled with tears. "Do you think I don't know that? Do you think this decision is easy for me? But he has promised to forgive my debts if you become his wife. Otherwise, they will throw us into the streets. We will have nothing." Amara's world collapsed in a single breath. She wanted to scream, to run, to tell her father that no amount of debt was worth her freedom. But she saw his frail frame, his trembling shoulders. Poverty had already broken him. He had nothing left to offer her but survival, and even that came at the price of her youth. That night, she lay awake on her mat, staring at the cracked ceiling. The moonlight spilled through the holes in the roof, touching her face like a cruel reminder. Tomorrow, she would no longer be Amara, the dreaming girl. She would be Amara, the wife of an old man. The wedding. The ceremony was swift and merciless. Villagers gathered, some out of curiosity, others to witness the strange sight of a girl so young standing beside a man who leaned on a cane. Amara wore a red bridal dress borrowed from a neighbor, its sequins dull from age. Her head was covered, her eyes lowered. Inside her, storms raged, but her lips spoke only the words demanded by custom. Haji Karim sat proudly, his wrinkled face stretching into a smile that never reached his eyes. When he placed the garland around her neck, she felt the weight of chains. Some villagers whispered in pity. Others muttered, "At least her father's debts are cleared. Better this than starvation." But no one asked the bride what she felt. That night, When the guests left and silence returned to Kareem's large, cold house, Amara sat on the edge of the bed like a statue. She stared at the shadows on the wall, trying to silence the pounding of her heart. Kareem walked in slowly, his cane tapping against the floor. His voice was low, smug. "From today, you are mine. You will serve me, respect me, and give me children. In return, you will have a roof, food, and my name. That is enough for a girl like you." Amara bit her lip to keep from crying. She wanted to vanish into the darkness, to become wind, water, anything but this fragile body trapped in a stranger's home. The days that followed. Life with Kareem was nothing like the dreams she once whispered under the neem tree. He was strict, quick to anger, and demanded obedience. Amara cooked, cleaned, and served, her hands blistered and her spirit caged. Yet, she discovered something strange. Kareem's household, despite its wealth, was empty. No children ran in the courtyard, no laughter filled the rooms. His own relatives visited rarely, treating him with cold politeness. For all his money, Kareem was a lonely man. One evening, as Amara placed food before him, she noticed him watching her silently. His eyes, though stern, carried a glimmer she couldn't understand. "You are not like the others," he muttered. "The village girls chatter and complain. You are quiet like your mother was." Amara lowered her gaze, but inside, she wondered, was this cruelty softening? Or was it just another trap? Days turned into weeks, and slowly, she learned something more shocking. Beneath Kareem's harshness was a man haunted by loss. His first wife had died in childbirth, his second from illness. He had buried his children before they could walk. Each death had carved bitterness into his soul. Amara, despite herself, began to see beyond the cane and the wrinkles. She saw a broken man who had sought to buy youth to ease his loneliness. But did that make her suffering less? Did that make this forced marriage right? No. And yet, destiny was already weaving threads neither of them could see. The first crack of change. One night, a storm struck the village. Winds tore at the thatched roofs, and rain poured like the sky itself was grieving. Amara rushed to secure the animals in the courtyard while Kareem struggled with the shutters. When a beam loosened and nearly fell upon him, it was Amara who pushed him out of the way, her small frame shielding him from the crash. She scraped her arm badly, blood trickling down, but she did not cry out. Kareem stared at her in shock. Why would you do that?" She answered simply, "Because I could not watch another person die." That night, something shifted. Kareem looked at her differently, not just as property, but as a life bound to his. He sat by her as she cleaned her wound, silent, almost guilty. And for the first time since her marriage, Amara dared to think, perhaps this story was not yet written to its end.